Hello, hello. We're nearing the end of our 2017 Liststravaganza. This last one, no, there's going to be one more after this, but this is the penultimate one, and it's about songs. It was hard getting it down to 25. At one point, I had 50 songs that I wanted to talk about, but that just seemed kind of ridiculous. So these, as kind of distinguished from the album list, these are songs that I went to kind of listen to specifically either as singles or as part of another album. Like sometimes I was into the whole album too, but I would still kind of seek out these individual songs. And to kind of like reinforce that, I made a rule that none of the songs on this list appear on any of the albums in my top albums list, just for kind of more variety and so that I could talk about more 2017 music. So the first one we're going to talk about is this song from DRAM featuring A$AP Rocky and Juicy J, Gilligan. Gone off my shit again, that's just how I live. Lost just like Gilligan, my own island. Oh, what a banger, what a hook. Just this like super infectious beat with the legendary 3-6 Mafia sample, the pop it up. And then of course Juicy J, enlivened by that fundamental element of his music, brings like a really hard hitting verse. DRAM has this moment too where if you want one, meet me at the crib, and then he just stops and he goes, "You know what it is." I don't know. It's just so good. A$AP Rocky's verse is good too. Very short, but like very fast, very syllable dense. Fantastic song. Crazy music video. Definitely check that out too. One that I've watched many times, and there's still parts that make me laugh. Next. Ooh, this is a good one. I've put the Furigana in because I couldn't remember how to pronounce their name. Tateyama Akiyuki, and the song is called Kaze o Kanjite, which is like Feel the Wind. And this is a song from the Komodo Friends soundtrack. If you haven't like gone and listened to the soundtrack, this is the opening track. It plays a lot in the anime. It's the with the I didn't do a good job of that. But it's got like kind of the wind chimes and stuff, and there's like a really nice little acoustic guitar part that comes in. It's just like a really serene and wonderful track, and it captures the whole kind of spirit of discovery and curiosity and adventure that I think was so prevalent in this show. That it often played in scenes where you were kind of meeting some new friends and you were learning kind of what their deal was and what their environment was like. And then you would just kind of have this song fading in, and I could go on and on about this. I think I talked about it a lot in the top animes video, but this idea of contentment when watching the behavior of animals and feeling content that the animals know what they're doing, I think is somehow really enlivened by this song that kind of vaguely feels like an actual nature documentary. So yeah, check it out. Even if you have no interest in the anime, you might find this song very pleasant. Next we have from the Last Waltz remix album. So basically, last year, World's End Girlfriend put out an album called Last Waltz, which I loved. It was one of my favorite albums last year. And then this year, kind of in the vein of Matroshka, another album on World's End Girlfriend's label, he released a full remix compilation of the previous album. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't work for me as well as the Matroshka remix albums because World End Girlfriend's music already kind of feels like a remix. Like it already has a very like sample based, sound collage based, multi genre feel to it. Um, and Girl specifically is like so. Originally, there was a release that World's End Girlfriend did called Girls Boys Song that had a song called Girls, and it, along with the song Boys, was sort of a homage to the Aphex Twin song Girl Boy Song. Um, so that already is kind of a remix. And then on Last Waltz, he took this song Girls and remixed it as Girl, where he basically just like sonically attacked it and put a bunch of like noise and distortion and abrasive elements. It was so cool. So he already kind of attacked his remix. It was an attack on an attack. And now we have Vampilia coming along and attacking it once again. So for a lot of tracks, I felt like this density and this layeredness wasn't necessarily appropriate. But Vampilia, who is this completely undescribable band, chaos metal is maybe what I would call them. Not that that actually is a genre that exists, or maybe it does. I don't know. But they are very, very well suited to this level of intensity and recursiveness in remix and attack. So here they just go nuts over kind of these few really beautiful melodies captured from the original. I was hoping that the vocalist from Vampilia would deliver his really characteristic and completely mind-blowing screams and growls and stuff over it, but no dice. But the same energy is still captured with their really precise string work and this kind of looming feeling of explosion that comes through all of it. And at the end, there's this crazy piano run that just, it boggles my mind every time I hear it. Very cool stuff. What? Okay. Next we have Motorsport, the first single from Culture 2 by Migos. Culture 2 actually just dropped this morning. I saw it was released. It's an hour and 45 minutes long, which is crazy. So I don't even know when I'm going to get a chance to listen to it. But if it all is at the same quality of this one track and of Stir Fry, the other single from it, then I'm going to be very, very impressed. This features Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, who both do like really fantastic verses. I'm really impressed with kind of this like lineage now, where when Cardi B says "ride the dick like a BMX," it made me think of Side to Side, where Nicki Minaj says "ride dick bicycle," and I was like, you know, there's kind of like this generational passing of the torch sort of feeling, and I was like really impressed with Cardi B's verse. But then Nicki's verse was like even crazier, and her flows are just bananas, and she's like actually working so hard. But then my favorite part is after that, when the takeoff verse comes in, the brandishing nails, ask if I'm running from 12. It just this like tonal shift where like Nicki goes like so hard that the beat is almost like lost, and then Takeoff just like seizes it and puts it like right back into this kind of primal flow that's going through the whole song. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but it's a sick, nasty, fantastic song. So check it out. Music video also insane. Some really crazy future out there F-Zero type aesthetic. I really hope Quavo keeps directing music videos, because so far all of his have been just fantastically out there in their kind of aesthetics. I swear to God that there's a scene, and every time I watch this video, I try to like look for it and point it out to people, where it keeps like cutting to like the display in the car, and it's like advertising different products or whatever. But there's one where it's like the hack in progress, and their car is like getting hacked. I swear I saw it, but I've never like been able to pause and be like, look, they're getting hacked, because I don't know, I just don't pay enough attention. Okay, what's next? Ooh, this is a good one. So Sufjan Stevens put out an album this year with these guys, Nico Moli, Bryce Dessner, and James McAllister. I didn't know who they were before this, but I was very impressed with their work. And the album is in typical Sufjan, very ambitious fashion, like this suite where they do tracks about various celestial bodies. This one is Jupiter, and it's about Jupiter. And the songwriting is right up Sufjan's alley, where he basically pulls up the Wikipedia page on Jupiter and tries to construct some sort of like tragic narrative out of this like random constellation of little facts about both the god and the planet, and things like calling out by Jove, which is probably, that's a pretty archaic expression now, but the fact that we still recognize that as modern English, and it's a reference to the god Jupiter, is understandably very crazy. And like with a lot of good Sufjan music, Sufjan. I have a hard time not saying Sufjan. A lot of good Sufjan music. You get caught up in his fascination and his obsession, and you're like, yeah, that is actually cool. All of this stuff we're learning about Jupiter. Um, More than that, though, I am just so impressed with the musical direction of this track, which returns back to his like Age of Odds style, like big bombastic beats, heavy percussion focus, um, kind of like use of auto tune at parts, um, and a progression of just kind of like major melodic shifts and kind of beating you over the head with themes that at once were just really subtle. I love all of it. And this is combined with the instrumentation, which I think is courtesy of these fine musicians, so that it's not quite exactly the same instrumentally as the mode of Age of Odds, but it has not quite like, I don't know, it's like a new sound for him, and yet it still feels very much like classic Sufjan. So yeah, very, very good. The ending melody, the Father of Life, Father of Death, that's basically the melody. It's very, very, very catchy, and it's a really kind of wonderful, maddening feeling when there's one melodic sequence in a song that's like 7.5 minutes long, and you just can't get it out of your head, and you have to keep listening to a song that long over and over again. That's quintessential Sufjan action. Next we have. Ooh, all right. So, as a Canadian, and especially as an employee of the Canadian federal government, I actually had to sign a contract vowing my everlasting and eternal love for Drake. And they told me if I didn't put Drake on one of these lists, I would be fired. Obviously, I'm kidding. But I do love Drake. He's kind of corny, and he's not my favorite rapper, and he's quite a bit of a culture vulture, but I still can't help but love him. And I think, so here I'm cheating a bit, but it's my list. I'm allowed to cheat. I'm including both songs, Portland and Sacrifices. They're back to back on the album More Life, and I would always listen to them together. So I feel like it just counts as one song for me. But this to me is like exactly what I want from Drake. It's got production that kind of feels almost like a pastiche of the styles that he's going for. Like on Portland, there's this like flute sound, and this came out around the time when Future's Mask Off was really blowing up, which is a song that I probably should have put on this list, by the way. It kind of slipped my mind, but whatever. Mask Off feels like it's been around for so long that I almost refuse to believe that it was a 2017 song. But I digress. So yeah, there was this like flute sound on Mask Off that was huge, and then Portland almost sounds like a parody of that with the just like the very, very simple loop. And like Drake on his verses again almost sounds like a parody of the style he's trying to emulate. But I don't remember where I was talking about this, but I think there's another video where I'm talking about kind of the Canadian sense of humor, where it's sort of like a lighthearted ribbing. And that's sort of how I feel with my attitude towards Drake, is that he encourages that sort of response to him. But with that said, what really shines here are the guest verses, where Drake, and it almost makes him look all the sillier in comparison, but he puts on the very legends in the genres that he's trying to emulate. So Portland has Migos on it, and they do a fantastic verse, and Quavo does a godlike hook, of course. Sacrifices has 2 Chainz and Young Thug, like 2 generations of some of Atlanta trap's best. Young Thug's verse in particular is just like pure vintage Thug. So it's amazing. Like Drake has the clout to make these sort of songs and make them sound really good and get these fantastic guest verses from them. And yet at the same time, it doesn't feel overly self-serious. It doesn't feel... It's just like a real good time to listen to. So yeah, I've hit this combo, this like 9-minute combo quite a few times too. Next we have Stormzy, Ultralight Beam. This is the one of the first Stormzy things I heard. It just popped up on Reddit, and I was like, "Ooh, Ultralight Beam! That's one of my favorite songs ever." If I had made a list like this for last year, it probably would have been number one. Um, so I was curious about it, and the experiences. I don't know how to put it into words. It felt like he was making sacred Ultralight Beam. That he was approaching Ultralight Beam as if it was like a gospel classic. And he had that sort of reverence for it and that sort of humility that he was just trying to expose himself in that light, to cast himself in that ultralight beam. And it really came through to me. Like, it really felt very, very real and sincerely motivated. And I talked about this with his full length album that I got really into. Um, Not like immediately after hearing this, but like once it came out, I was like, oh snap, that's that guy. That it had that same sort of sincerity to me, that I was really willing to feel him on all sorts of different levels. And this song, like, it breaks down into like spoken word at some points. There's parts where like the band is just sort of riffing, and he's just talking about, you know, sending prayers and love to all these different boroughs in London that I don't have any idea about, but I felt it. I really felt it. Beautiful, beautiful song, and it really brings out, I think, just his quality as a performer. You know, like, he's a fantastic grime rapper. No one can doubt that. But this shows like the other side of him, where you just feel entranced by his voice and by his presence. So yeah, good stuff. Ooh, another classic, a banger. This one dropped on Frank Ocean's radio show Blonded, I think. Even though it's an Aesop Mob single, you know, and it's kind of strange to call it an Aesop Mob single when the only Aesop Mob rapper is Rocky, who does a good verse at the start, and then Quavo comes in, and Playboy Cardi's kind of got this like ad lib stuff going on. It's all about fashion, mostly Raf Simmons, all kinds of crazy colors. Because I'm never gonna stop thinking about that line. But Uzi's verse, Lil Uzi Vert, I think does a fantastic verse on here. That doesn't shy away at all from kind of like his mimetic status and kind of his rap quirks that a lot of people mocked when he really blew up on Bad and Bougie. He leans into that, he embraces that, and he transforms that into like a really powerful, compelling verse that I don't think any like kind of more traditional rapper would deny is like just a really well put together verse. And as soon as you're like kind of getting over that, like, wow, yeah, I really felt that feeling. Oh my God, Frank Ocean just crushes everybody, like spitting complete hot fire. Um, with torching the road in these Gucci flames stuck to the pavement, they glue. Because of that one line, I probably bought my Gucci shoes. I don't know if I would have bought them otherwise, but it's just so cool, and the density of all these different lines and labels that he's shilling out, um, and the kind of encapsulation of his lifestyle that he puts into it. That, you know, all through this year, Frank has been dropping sporadically these really touching, beautiful songs. We're going to talk about them later, don't worry. But then for him to just like completely lose it on this one track and spit absolute fire, it was just so satisfying and impressive. And you're like, oh yeah, this guy is like a rapper too. Like, you can't forget that. Frank Ocean is an amazing rapper. Okay, what's next? What's next? Ooh, is a good one. So Elisa Crampton, if you don't know her, makes this like very sample heavy, cross-cultural. I don't know what genre to call it. I call it macro pop a lot, but I think I kind of like made up that term and then convinced myself that I had heard it somewhere else. But it's sort of like kind of these long ambient abstract structures. I guess sculptures works too. Sure, it's a sculpture, a sonic sculpture, but all of the parts are made up of these like totally disjoint sounds and references and encapsulations. She really blew up after American Drift, which is just this fantastic album that came out in like 2013, I think. And I remember the really the part that landed me on that album was when she sampled the Lil Jon, like what, you know? Um, just this kind of like loaded, completely understandable, pre-digested cultural icon, like plopped in the middle of this completely different soundscape. And in here, a soft opening. This is just like a random Lucy that she uploaded on SoundCloud. I don't know why I said the term Lucy there, but a single track uploaded on SoundCloud. And I feel like it's like a demo of something, but it's really, really beautiful, fantastic music. Um, Again, kind of following the same pattern, building up this track out of like the sound of guns reloading and like weird samples of radio announcing and turntablism, and but then there's this persistent haunting piano melody going through. And wait, is it piano or is it an acoustic guitar? I think it's an acoustic guitar, but the fact that I couldn't really tell should suggest you something about the tone. And really beautiful, haunting, tender, quiet little vocals that are just kind of whispering through, but then rise and fall. Oh, it's just gorgeous, just really gorgeous. Elisa Crampton, I feel, is really refining something very special in this genre that, as far as I can tell, she just created herself. So every year I'm really excited to see where she'll go with it. Next, we have Kendrick Lamar, The Heart Part 4. He dropped this in advance of Damn, his full-length album from this year. Um, as the title indicates, he's done several other tracks like this where he really, really just raps from the heart. And in this one, he goes nuts. There's like at least 3 different beats that I can think of off the top of my head. And he has multiple flows and styles for each one. He does stuff like really blatantly calling out his rivals, like Drake question mark, in that really energizing, almost shockingly straightforward style that he had on his legendary Control verse. Um, what was, you got till April. He says some line about you've got until April whatever to get your shit together. And people were like freaking out because there was rumors that there was an album coming and they thought, oh my god, did he just like announce the album release date in this song, which I think is just so cool of an idea. I don't think it actually ended up coming out on that day, but the idea of it was very, very cool. There's a section 2 that I really like, where he's like trying to rap, and then he plays the sound of like crumpling up paper, and then he like kind of goes at it again with a different verse, and he's like muttering to himself. And not even that I think it's necessarily like real, but just trying to express, like most rappers try to make it look easy, but here he's really kind of laying out to it like, I put in work. Like this is not straightforward, simple music, but this is something I'm agonizing over every word, and it's like you get chills like thinking about how every single track probably went through that sort of process line by line. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to praise. Like I said, there's just so many different things going on in the song. It really feels like a complete kind of emotional roadmap of where he was when this track came out. So very, very cool. Next we have, whoa, this is a good one. This is a good one. So Mount Kimby, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. Mount Kimby does really unique, kind of electronica, kind of instrumental, rocky sort of music. And then they have these amazing collaborations. This one is with King Cruel. a London question mark, a British rapper at any rate, with a really distinctive voice and this like super aggressive kind of slurred. Not all the time. Actually, he's got a really good range of tracks. You should check him out. But on this track, he really kind of goes in with this almost like a meltdown that he's having over the course of this song. Um, the lyrics are kind of like hauntingly mysterious. There's this fantastic music video too, that's all about it's like set in a library and it's going through reference materials of oh, I can't think of what his name is, but it's basically like the last undiscovered person of North America, like the last person of Aboriginal origin that was able to avoid contact with Western civilization until he basically just like wandered out into a city in, I want to say, like the mid to late 1800s. So we've got kind of meaning all over the map here, that the lyrics are kind of painting one story and then the music is painting another story, and then King Cruel's voice itself is giving us some information, and then like the narrative of this music video, which you really just should watch because I can't do it justice in words, makes it even more kind of distorted, and the idea of like blue train lines being the veins that you inject heroin into, probably as an image, but also this like very visceral picture of like London subway stations late at night, when really anyone that has their life together in any sort of way, shape, or form would not be hanging around. And it's just this really overwhelming feeling of just like, well, that's just it. I can't put the feeling into words. That's what's so intoxicating and amazing about it. So yeah, check this one out. This is a good one. Ooh, ho. Speaking of unanswerable questions, speaking of things that just transcend understanding and kind of new, bold ideas, let me pose you a question. What kind of water is that? And the answer may surprise you. It's Patek Water. All right, so let me explain why this line is so huge to me. All right. So for a long time, we kind of had like the ice era of hip hop, and this sort of started, well, if not started with, and was like hugely boosted in popularity by Gucci Mane's "So Icy." And the idea is you have this jewelry on that has all these diamonds in it, and it looks kind of like ice or snow or something. It's like glittery and sparkly and stuff. And for a long time, hip hop made a lot of references to ice, and then we kind of had the emergence of non-gangster rap, kind of like your Kanye revolution, and the ice era age retreated a bit. But now it retreated back into Atlanta, which seems ironic because Atlanta is in the south and hot, but whatever. But now, because Atlanta rap is so huge and just on the forefront of so many different subgenres of hip hop, it's kind of taken hold in the mainstream again. But now it's like beyond ice. It's water. Your jewelry is now so covered in diamonds that calling it ice is insulting. It's much more refractive than that. It's water, okay? But here, and you see that in lines like on Without Warning, the Offset says something about I bought my first Patek, it got some rain on it. But here, Future doesn't ask what kind of watch you have, okay? Because Patek is a watchmaker. He asks what kind of water is that. You see that reversal of like he doesn't even recognize that it's a watch. He just thinks that it's water. He's like, what kind of water is that? It's Patek Water. Oh my god. Oh. Fantastic, fantastic song. Really fun, bouncy, catchy beat. Um, the Offset verse almost goes without saying at this point, but it's fantastic. As soon as he says, shut it down because the plug is illegal, riding through with the dub and the eagle. I hit the, but it's like too bouncy. Like you just feel your whole body start to sync up with it, and then cutting from that into the hook. What kind of water is that? It's Patek Water. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. All right, all right, all right. What do we got next? Ooh, total genre shift from the last one. So Made in Abyss, a fantastic anime from last year that everyone has been talking about. No, well, maybe not largely, but the soundtrack played a big role, I think, in how people got so entranced with this show. And especially that first shot of the sun rising over the town around the abyss, and so gorgeous. And the soundtrack there, of course, really sold it. It's done by this guy, Kevin Penkin, who's an Australian person who's like right around my age. I think he's like 24, 25 or something. He recorded it in Austria for an anime. Like, none of this adds up, but he did a fantastic job. This song, I think, is my favorite. It starts with this really, really fast violin trill, which is eventually joined by like this really delicate, like plinking piano, and then the whole thing just keeps blooming and blossoming and flowing out in all sorts of directions. And it's usually used in the anime in scenes where the characters are kind of like setting out on the next phase of their adventure. And usually it's kind of like cutting between that and the people they've just left behind, kind of reminiscing and worrying about them and stuff. And it just has this sense of hugeness and openness and potential, but that not just like the hugeness itself, but that jittery, nervous, excited feeling that you get when you're the one heading out on that journey. Really, really, yeah, fantastic, fantastic work. And just that violin at the beginning. Like, I love any song that has that sort of violin, I think. Okay, next is XO Tour Life by Lil Uzi Vert. This song was absolutely everywhere for a while, including all over my MP3 player and computer and such. This, I think, really showed to the world what Lil Uzi Vert was actually all about. After kind of the memes died down about his verse in Bad and Bougie, and after people kind of got that out of their system, and then they were really actually ready to take him seriously as an artist, he dropped this with not very much ceremony at all. I think it was initially just uploaded to SoundCloud without like any sort of warning or premonition or promotion. But it just took off. Something about it people really, really identified with. The lyrics are like really blatantly sad. Uh, I don't really care if you cry, push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. Like, it almost feels like self-parody or something. But the haunting beat with that continuous sample of like the tape catching, and the aesthetics of that really minimal music video he uploaded, where it's just the drawing of him driving in the rain. It really infected people. It hit people on some level where they guess they really wanted a song like this. They needed something to sate the sadness within them, and this has been seen as kind of like a landmark of emo rap. Um, and I think it has that kind of the best emo, and I don't mean like mall goth emo, but I mean like American football, Captain Jazz, Adventures, Hop Along kind of emo, where your emotions become so like small. How do I put this? It feels like you and your emotions are just shrinking into this tiny little space, and that it almost becomes like cozy. You become secure and cozy in your feelings of despair. That to me is really interesting, and it's not often that hip hop music is able to give me those sort of feelings, but here we are. Next we have, ooh, oh yeah, no, this is a really, really fantastic song. I first saw this on 88 Rising's YouTube channel. If you don't know 88 Rising, they're I don't know what the hell they are. They have a lot of money, that's for sure. and they just have been doing things like weird celebrities hanging out things, and they've been funding a lot of music videos and such. So they did the music video for this. It's great. The music video is fantastic, and the song itself is so addictive and hypnotic and unique. I really liked both of her EPs that she released this year. The double pack of EPs was very close to making my list, but this is the song that I kept gravitating back towards. Um, the chorus is, she's saying in Korean, like, no, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it, and it has this really relatable and understandable feeling of like, I don't know how to put it. It's like Saturday night, and you have a couple of options of like what you want to do. None of them feel like that great. At the same time, it's not like you're unhappy. You're not really in a bad place. You're just kind of like happy to be doing nothing, and you just kind of like, you know, you just lamping. You know, you're just like, eh. But you feel cool about it. You feel um, a little transcendent in your detachedness, or something. It's hard to describe. You should probably just listen to it yourself. I'm planning on putting links to all of these in the description down below. So check them out. We'll do the top 10 in the next video, so get hype about that. Can you guess what they are? Maybe there's a few that you'll know I gotta talk about. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this assortment. While I was making this list, I just put a playlist together of all of these, and then I've just been listening to it on shuffle, kind of thinking about, oh, I like this one a lot, but do I like it more than this one? It's been great. Just really, really good year for music. But every year is. Okay.